terms, in simplest terms, feminism is just the fight for equality between both sexes.
Feminism is a social justice movement that is geared towards promoting equal rights for men and women, or basically the sexes, and ensuring that people have equality of opportunities and outcomes, and the quality of life that you live as a person is not determined or reduced by virtue of your gender or your sex.
Well, first of all, I would like to start by saying that I, for one, believe in the movement or the ideology of feminism.
Feminism is not Nigerian. Feminism is human, because every human establishment where you have hierarchy, where you have people living together, then you understand that the fight for gender equality is a fight to ensure that we are all humane in the way we deal with people.
For the longest time, women have been restricted to certain roles and certain positions, not just in Nigeria but in the world. And I think that feminism is a very strong tool, because it has helped women to know in these days more than ever that they can do certain things, they can take up certain positions. It has made women to realize that there's so much more, you know, to being human, not just being a woman. And I think that is very awesome. Yeah.
A situation where the girl child, women are restricted to certain roles, or the situation where women are not allowed, you know, to allowed an opportunity of choice, I think that's the word, then it calls for concern.
My first experience with, you know, coming to own my femininity or my womanhood in Nigeria was me getting to work one day and someone telling me that women are weaker than men, or women are the weaker vessels than men. You know, when I heard that, I was pretty shocked. This wasn't even so far ago. This is about 3 years ago. And, you know, this person, a guy, obviously says that women are weaker vessels. And that was the first thing. I started realizing and seeing how women have been treated like...
I am a registered nurse. I work in the health sector. So I have an idea of how women are treated. When it comes to nurses, the larger population are women. And most times, we are objectified, sexually objectified. People believe that they want to be with nurses because nurses are good in bed, or they feel they can just talk to nurses and just, you know, because nurses are good in bed and they are really open to sexual adventures. They're just there, like, just give them something and then they're all over you. You just want to have sex with you. They are really open to having sex with anybody, which is very wrong. A very wrong perspective about nursing or nurses.
When you begin to question feminism in Nigeria, you see that looking back at our history, looking back at our culture before the colonial times, you see that it's something that is deeply rooted in Nigeria. And so when you say feminism, it's not in our culture, feminism is not a Nigerian thing, then you should define what culture is in Nigeria, because it is very much in Nigeria. It is very much prevalent in our culture. Women have always taken up positions of authority. Women have always been heads. Women have always been leaders. Most of the interesting wars and riots that happened in colonial and pre-colonial times were headed by women. Talk about women's rights. Talk about other things that women did in the society. So this is just to prove that feminism is very, very much Nigerian. Growing
up as a Nigerian, I don't think I was taught, you know, great things that women in the 90s, during the colonial period. I don't think I was taught, you know, what women did, right? It was when I was growing up that I, you know, came across, you know, documentary. I came across, you know, books that showed, you know, brave things that women like Fumila Ransom Kuti, the Aba crisis, the Aba riots, and, you know, even in the 1914, I mean, a number of riots that were spearheaded by women. So I think in 21st century, I think it's important for us to revisit our education curriculum and reintroduce history, and not just history, but history that will teach, you know, young people how how there is no limit to what they can achieve, how past women from, way past, how they've been able to dare the hard, how they've been able to, challenge the system for equality, challenge the system for development, challenge the system for women empowerment. And I think this would further, give them the opportunity to understand that this is not something that is just happening. It's not just a new thing, right? Feminism has been in existence from way back. Why? Because any system that disallows people from expanding their potentials should definitely not be accepted in any civilized society. And that's why I think in Nigeria history should be taught, and women that have been able to dare the hard and have been able to get on women empowerment from way past should be introduced and then taught, explained to children of today.
So yeah, when we talk about the education system, I think it's really sad, and up to today I don't think there's any valid reason why we don't have history being taught in schools. I think it's very, very important, especially when we talk about feminism, because there is no way that people or children would be able to understand that women have been powerful, women have been strong from time immemorial. And it's even sad that when you go back to the times where history was in the curriculum, and you see that we weren't even giving adequate information. Like our history was blank, for lack of a better word. All we knew was Fumi Ransom Kuti was the first woman to ride a car. We didn't know that she established a lot of associations. We didn't know that she got to fight for different rights, especially taxes and things like that. We didn't get to learn about Wanyeruwa or the Umba, or a lot of women that are just buried in our history. So even if we're talking about the lack of history being taught in our curriculum, or the lack of history being brought back to education, I think it still needs to be revised. And I think it's no news that our history is most of our history is written by have been largely influenced by Western culture, and I think it will be important, it will be very necessary to revise what Nigerian history is, because there is so much that has been left in the dark. So I think that it has definitely affected how feminism, how women are viewed in society, and if it should be brought back, then we have a whole lot to correct and to review when it comes to history, not just of women.
We have so many laws in Nigeria that are very discriminatory between men and women, despite the fact that the laws are coming from the framework of the Constitution that says that men and women are equal under the law. So I'll start from the Constitution. Even the Constitution itself is discriminatory. So under Section 26 of the Constitution that talks about citizenship, it gives the provision that a man in Nigeria who marries a foreign woman can have that woman become a citizen of Nigeria if the president gives consent to it. But when you flip it to the other side, a woman who marries a foreign man cannot have the same provision given to him. So what he has to do is to go through the process of naturalization, which often takes at least 15 years before he can be qualified to do that. Then moving on from the Constitution, we have the Labour Act, which provides that women are not allowed to take night shifts in public and agricultural spaces. So except if they are nurses or they're in managerial positions. So if your work has to include a night shift, you have to go home. And this law is taken from a protectionist perspective. But the problem is that because most poor people in Nigeria are made up of women, many of these low-income jobs that require night shifts at times would require that women want to take them, but they are being deprived from taking these jobs simply because these laws are applicable. Moving on to the Police Act. Under the Police Act, an unmarried woman who becomes pregnant is required to be discharged from her duties, except the Inspector General of Police gives his consent for her to continue her job. Similarly, an unmarried woman who wants to get married must write to the Commissioner of Police stating her intention to get married, and also like the person that she wants to get married to. And these provisions are not applicable to men as well. Several other laws that have to do with security agencies in Nigeria have very ridiculous provisions for unmarried women who get pregnant or women who want to get married. And then you require that the laws are against women, but are also targeted against women who are unmarried, because somehow we don't like unmarried women in Nigeria, and particularly when they decide to make the very big mistake of getting pregnant while unmarried.
When we talk of gender-based violence, it's unfortunate that women are there is no safe space for women in Nigeria, in marriages, at the workspace and all. But and why? It's just because most women are not financially empowered, right? They have no, so most of them rely on the financials that will be provided for by their husband. As a result of this, they are at the mercy of their husband, right? So this husband then, because they think these women have nothing to offer, then they start to treat them anyhow. So I think when women are financially empowered, or they are able to work, they are able to engage in productive labor, right? Then they have the power over their life and their destiny. So they can decide to walk out of relationships that are abusive. They are able to confront stereotypes because they have financial power to get on anything they want. So I think gender-based violence is a very unfortunate situation that we have in Nigeria.
I think gender-based violence is very prominent in context of Nigerian societies because first, there's a lot of subtle acceptance of it. So when issues that have to do with gender-based violence happen, we usually shift the blame. And when you look at laws that say women should not work in the night or women should not be in this kind of environment, you can see that those laws are not taking it from the perspective of the offender, but they are looking at it from the perspective of the victim, that if you didn't do this thing or you weren't present in this time, at this time, in this place, these kind of things will not happen to you. So I think that's the first layer of why gender-based violence are very prominent in our society, because we tend to forgive men, and coming from the context of the society that thinks a lot of men are animals, they can't control themselves, then we push it away. So let's forget about the animals that can't control themselves and let's push the blame to women who can't control themselves. And this is very problematic because despite the fact that we've been doing this for years, we've seen no change. Like gender-based violence still keeps being very high and prevalent in our societies. Another reason why I think gender-based violence is prevalent is still coming from perspective of the laws, is that our laws are not very accommodating to women who have been punished by men, or who gender-based violence have been carried out against them. So you see instances where right from the police station down to the content of our laws, certain women might not have adequate provision or protection from them. So in the end, it's like, what is where do you get justice? Do you get justice from a society that thinks you are the one at fault? Of course not. And then the next thing is, where can I get justice from the courts? Because the courts still flow from that society that is highly discriminatory against women. Sometimes they still face the same outlook when they still go and try to get justice within court systems or within legal systems.
Generally, women go through a lot. However, in Nigeria, I think it's really pathetic. Statistics show that 30% of women within the ages of 14 and 38 must have one point in their lives experienced sexual assault. There's still the issue of child marriage that is still very rampant in Nigeria. There is the issue of rape, and so many other things. Nigeria also has the highest rate of maternal mortality rate, and I think it's saddening. These are issues that feminism seeks to address, to provide possible solutions to it so that women can live freely, women can live long and healthy lives in Nigeria.
What do you think the roles of a woman is in a society?
Okay, the roles of a woman in a society. First, a woman can be a motivator. She can motivate her husband and the men in the society. For instance, if the husband is interested in politics, a woman will be the one to encourage the husband, to motivate him, to give him inspiring words in order to join, in order to achieve his goals. And that one, a woman can serve as a role model. She can also give advice to the children, the youths in the society.
Okay, so do you believe that a woman's place belongs in the kitchen?
To what?
a woman should, that her place is in the kitchen. She must always be in the kitchen.
Somehow.
Somehow.
No. Somehow.
Okay.
Maybe.
Maybe. Why do you think so?
Because the man will go out and bring the money.
Boys and girls should be raised to be independent-minded, irrespective of their gender. They should be raised beyond the fact that there is something for men, there is something for women. Boys and girls should be raised as humans, and they should be raised to the extent that there is no limit to what they can achieve, and all they need is just their mind to open up their minds for opportunities, right? So I think the idea that the kitchen is for the men, the women, and the boys are supposed to do the cutting of the grass or something, whatever you do, I think that should change, right? So the boy child should be trained to be able to cook, same as the girl child. The girl child should be trained, to get on tech courses, right? To get on engineering, same as the boy child should be raised to be a nurse, to be a caterer, right? So there shouldn't be anything that says, oh, this job is for boys, this job is for girls. I think both the boy child and the girl child should be raised in the best way possible, and to be able to achieve their potentials in the best way the society allows.
Children should be raised, but raised properly. And for us to ensure that children are raised properly, we have to first of all try and ensure that parents knows what it takes to raise children. And there is usually a topic or a debate that comes up when we talk about raising children, and the debate is this: should girls be raised differently from the way boys are raised, from the way boys should be raised? And my answer is no. However, we shouldn't shy away from the fact that the needs of boys might be different from the needs of the girls. So while raising these two individuals, you should pay attention to different needs, because both genders have different needs. As a girl, the needs of a girl is quite different from the needs of a boy. However, both of them can be raised together if you pay attention to what both genders need. And there's a certain age I believe that a child will reach, and at that particular age, a child should be given some level of trust and freedom. There are certain things that a child needs to learn on his or her own, and it's at that stage that parents should pay much attention to, at the level where children begins to get freedom from their parents. Those stages are the most vulnerable stages, but it's important that that is given, because children need to learn some of those things on their own. It's a life experience that will live with them for the rest of their life, and I think that is something that parents should start looking into. Raise your children the same way, but don't also pay attention to individual needs of the male child and the female child.
First off, I would like to say that upbringing, training really matters. Okay, just look at it. I think many of the things that has happened, many of the will I say negative perception we've had about women, or what they can bring to society, or how they are weaker vessels and all of that, are things that we've grown to believe from when we were young. Things that maybe our parents have subconsciously planted in our minds, or maybe some uncles, some aunties, even teachers in school have planted in our minds, and then we grew up to believe this is the norm. We grew up to believe this is the way it should actually be. So I think the first thing to do, I know that the first thing to do is actually going back to train our children with a particular mindset. Gender equity. There is no profession that is set for so and so gender.
Another thing that will help Nigerians to embrace more the concept of feminism is letting people know more about our history. I feel like history is something that's been left in the dark. A lot of people don't understand that women have been in times immemorial taking up strong roles, taking up roles that have now been streamlined to just men. Women are capable as much as men, and then letting people see that these things have existed will make them would make it easier for people to accept the concept of feminism. And also the idea that culture is a way of life needs to be broadened, because if we keep saying that culture is a way of life, and then we keep depending on certain unwritten rules, certain rules that only guided people who are long gone, I don't think it speaks for us in this age. So I feel like we need to readdress what we regard as culture, and I feel like in so doing, this would help us to embrace more the idea of feminism, to help us to look at women differently and see that they matter in this society.
Feminism is Nigerian.
Feminism is human.